I'm taking all the dungeon games I've played this year and putting them into a tier list and ranking them. But before I do that, be sure to subscribe and join the Discord, as it helps a ton. I actually did this video once before, but in the last one, I put all the ones that were dead at the bottom. And in hindsight, I think this is really unfair, as it's not super indicative of how good they still might be or were in their prime. And a friend of mine actually pointed this out to me recently, so I decided to redo this list, but this time leaving out the ones that I would have just put in E due to them being dead, or now ranking them fairly. And to start off, we have Dungeon RNG, which is honestly barely a dungeon game. It's way more RNG than dungeon. The dungeons aren't that great. I've played it very briefly, didn't like it because I don't really like RNG games. So this one's going to be the easiest one for me. This one's probably just going straight into E. I really don't see the appeal for it in terms of an RNG game or in terms of a dungeon game. Honestly, this one just is not it for me. It just feels very low effort, very low quality. Not much is here. Even in the thumbnail, like when you're loading into the game, or this right here, you can see in this picture, that's well, you can't really see because it's small. I might blow it up. But when you're loading into the game, it's literally just an AI picture. I mean, it's just very low effort, kind of like slop of a game. Next is Anime Dimensions, and Anime Dimensions, where I don't really like its end game. I love every other part of Anime Dimensions. I love leveling in it. I love everything about the grind from 0 to max. It's just the end game, it kind of falls off for me. I love testing out the new characters. I dislike that it's kind of pay to win, but all in all, I think Anime Dimensions slots perfectly right into B. And if you do like the end game, if you do like their raid, kind of like how their raids work, I think this could easily move up to A. I don't really see anybody putting this in S though, but it is still a really solid dungeon game. For me, it's in B. It's a ton of fun to play, especially when it's your like first time playing. Next is Dungeon Quest, and the last time I made this tier list all the way back in February, I didn't even add an S tier because I didn't think any really deserved S tier, but I added it back this time, and it's obviously for Dungeon Quest. I like all the updates that they're doing. I think the new dungeon looks cool, where I may not be at it quite yet. I'm working to get there, but the Greg update was cool. The new raids are cool. I kind of like both of them. I just like what they're constantly doing with Dungeon Quest, and I think the game has gotten even better, and I think it is an S tier at the moment for me. I mean, I know a lot of people complain about Voldex, but I think they've kind of breathed life into the game. That's just my personal opinion. For Delve, and this is one some of you might have heard of and might not have heard of, but it's kind of like where dungeons are randomly generated, or not randomly generated, the rooms are kind of randomly generated. I think it has a really cool concept. Like, I would really like to see more from this game. I know it's made by a small dev team and it's been kind of long without updates, but I think what was there, I was really hooked on. I loved playing this game, and I really hope they update. And I know they have sneaks for a new one that I was seeing, so I think they might. I'm torn because I think off of the content, like just the amount of content they have in the game, I have to put it in D. But I really enjoyed playing what was there. What was there was so much fun, so I think I'm gonna put it into C. This might end up aging poorly if they never update it again. Then it's like, oh man, I probably should have put it in D because there's like only one dungeon in there. But it was just really fun. It was kind of unique, so I'm putting it in C, kind of biasly. But I feel like if you haven't tried Delve, you should at least try it. If you know anything about me, this next one is not going to be surprising at all. Anime Dungeon Fighters. I hate this game. Even though it was one of the most popular dungeon games on Roblox for a little bit here in 2024, I think this game is complete dog shit. I've made multiple videos hating on it, but even though I think it's dog shit, and if you want to see exactly why, I'll just link to those too. Even though I think it's dog shit, I think there is a lot of content in this game. So for like the 4 people that genuinely do like playing this game, I think there's a ton there for you to actually do. You know, where I think some of these dungeon games get held back because they're good, but there's not a lot of content. I think this one's like the opposite. It's a really bad game, but there's a lot of content there. So I think the lowest I can put it into is C, but I'm still putting it below Delve, even though it has 1 dungeon. Zombie Hunters is like bootleg elemental dungeons. It's ED with guns pretty much, and honestly, it's a lot of fun. Even though it's a copy, I had a lot of fun with this game. Like, it's genuinely fun. It does copy ED, like honest to God, 1 for 1, but I liked it so much that I'm putting it in a B. This could be overly biased, but I think like most people who played elemental dungeons would also like Zombie Hunters. So obviously I'm gonna like it a ton. I think I'm actually putting it a little higher than I did last time, because now going back, I honestly just don't even care if it copied ED that much. I just like it. Now the copies can be egregious, like honest to God, like 1 for 1 copies, like taking like maps and assets almost from ED, but it was just fun. So I mean, and when ED wasn't updating at all, I feel like if Zombie Hunters would have continued to update, they might have actually been able to just like get up past ED. And speaking of ED, there's no way I'm going to put Zombie Hunters in B and not put ED ahead of that. And we all know ED's not going on the same tier as Dungeon Quest, let's be honest. So it's going right into A, and that's pretty easy for me as well. Elemental Dungeons is very unique. It's very fun. It feels very different from most dungeon games, and it's cool. A lot of the elements look cool. Some of the dungeons are made pretty well. They're starting to update again, and I think this is comfortably an A. Now, obviously, you could say, hey, Kat, you might be really biased. You do have like a gazillion videos about Elemental Dungeons, and you would be absolutely right. I am biased for Elemental Dungeons, and I'm not going to try to hide that at all. But I am also trying to slightly weigh how good they are. You know what I'm saying? So it's my opinion, but I'm also kind of trying to weigh how, like, you know, how much they're updated, the quality of them. And that's why, even though I hate anime dungeon fighters, I still have it in C out of respect for the people that do like it. Crawl's another one of those games that's very, very fun, but there's not a lot there. So it's one of those games with a good concept, fun gameplay, stuff like that, but just needs to continue to update. And as it updates, I believe it'll continue to climb up. Now, Crawl is a little bit more of a traditional style of dungeon crawler game, so I don't think it'll ever crawl super high up for me because I kind of value uniqueness a bit, but I still think it could like get up to B. But for now, I gotta put it into D, maybe the top of D, or into C. I'm thinking C. I think I'm gonna put it in C. I think Crawl's really good. I think you should try Crawl if you haven't tried Crawl. I'm putting it into C. It could easily move up to B. I don't know if it could go past B though. I'm gonna put it in C though. Maybe I should put it ahead of Delph. I'm gonna keep it where I'm at because I do like Delph's concept a little more, and I do like Crawl's concept. So I'm gonna keep it where it's at. Now for Linestra, I don't know how exactly you say this game. This game's pretty fun. I didn't actually play much of this game, but what I did play was pretty fun. Now it's got a weird like base building kind of concept that primarily caught my eye. That was kind of unique to dungeon games, at least. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm putting it in B though, or D, because the combat feels kind of weird, kind of off. A lot of times when I'm trying to lock on to enemies, because I play a lot of these games with my friends mostly, a lot of times when I'm trying to lock on to enemies, I just keep locking on to like people that are in my party. That frustrated the shit out of me. Another thing I don't really like too much is that you can kind of buy everything that you need. For the most part, that kind of brought it down for me, but it's a great concept. I hope they continue to like update this game because I could easily see it moving up. Again, this game might just be a game that's kind of held back by being newer and a little more in its early phase. For Forgotten Realms, this game now is completely dead. I'm pretty sure abandoned if I remember, but I played it earlier this year and it was a ton of fun. It had like these like elements and stuff, and you had like 2 elements, and like, I'm not explaining it well. I'll throw some gameplay of me going and playing it. I'm not explaining it well. I'm drawing a blank, but it was just decent. It was decent fun. It wasn't too much. I'm putting it in D, and I don't really think it could go any higher. I think maybe it could go down at like the top of E, but I'll put it into D because when I did play, I had a good amount of fun. For World Zero, I was so torn on World Zero. I think it's going in A, but I'm actually going to put it behind ED now that ED is starting to actively update again. World Zero is just kind of a game that for me has aged. It's been out a long time. I've played a lot of it. I still think it's a really good game. Excellent end game. The updates are pretty good. The events are pretty fun, but it's kind of aged for me at this point. I still think leveling up in World Zero was one of the most fun experiences I've had on Roblox just in general. So I would say if you haven't done that, do it. But for me, it's a little older at this point. Still really good though. For Raid Rush, I haven't actually played too much. This is probably the one on this list where I've played the absolute least besides Dungeon RNG. But it's pretty much like a boss rush game. It barely qualifies as a dungeon game, but I'm gonna put it in there anyways because my favorite part about dungeon games are the bosses itself, and Raid Rush is pretty much all of that. Where I haven't played too much of that, only a few runs of it at this moment. It's still kind of fun. It's still kind of fun. I'm gonna put it in a D just because it's not a full-on dungeon game. It is just like the bosses, but it's fun. If you like Raid Rush type games or boss rush type games, I think you should give it a try. For Fabled Legacy, I think this game is going in A for me. I think it's very similar to Dungeon Quest, so I'm not going to move it to the top A, but it's still an A. Even though it's similar to Dungeon Quest, it's very rare I put Dungeon Quest like copies that high because I value uniqueness a lot. So I was tempted to put it at the bottom of B, but I'm going to keep it into A because the dungeons are so high quality. They come out so often and the game is updated so often. I think the developers are great for this game. I think every dungeon for this game is great. I think if you play and like this game, you are fed constantly. I'm not, again, the same with this one. I'm not up to date with the most recent dungeon because it was really hard to stay up to date with all these dungeon games staying at max because they're all so grindy. But this game is just great. I think it's still solidly A. The next is Undertale Dungeons. For all 4 of you who have played it, it's not bad. It's a little bit older schooler style Roblox game. And when I say old school style Roblox, it's kind of old school style Roblox game, but it was all right for the duration I played it. I think this game is mostly just going to be held back by it's been dated pretty hard. Like, it just looks and plays like a really old like Roblox game. And so for that, I'm kind of putting it in E. Lastly is Treasure Quest, and I'm just putting that right up there in C ahead of Anime Dungeon Fighters. I'm mostly putting it in C because same with Anime Dungeon Fighters, where I really don't like it that much. There is a lot of content there and a lot of game to play if you do enjoy it. For me, I don't really enjoy it. I've never really enjoyed it, but I'm trying to be a little fair and just put it into C. And really, the only reason I've played Treasure Quest at all this year is because I was playing one of their other games a lot. They made like a shooter game on Roblox. I was playing that a bit, and I didn't even know that the same people who made Treasure Quest made that game. So then I just tried Treasure Quest again for some reason because I thought like, oh, it might just be better. They updated or something. I don't know. I still didn't like it that much. But I also haven't tried any of the most recent stuff because when I used to like even really play Treasure Quest at all, it was on a whole different account years ago. And yeah, that's every dungeon game I played this year ranked on a tier list based on my personal opinion. So thanks for watching. See you.